Welcome to The Other Side, Mississippi Today's political podcast. I'm Jeff Pender, joined here today. We're going to have a little bit of a different setup today. I think we're going to have a reporter rotation.
So no special guests. We're certainly not
y'all,
special.
Y'all are very special. We're going to have lots of guests, lots of reporters on. We are just concluding the 2026 regular session of the Mississippi Legislature, and salute and good riddance to it
Thank
at this
God.
point. Yeah. Anyway, I'm joined here today with Taylor Vance and Michael Goldberg. Guys, have y'all recouped a little bit, recovered?
A little bit, yeah.
I would say it's going to be a week-long, if not month-long process, which might require some vacation time.
Yeah,
Jeff.
okay.
So
Okay.
I always find it a little ironic or humorous that the end of session kind of coincides a lot of times with Easter because, we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, but we also tend to celebrate the death of several bills that were not resurrected.
Maybe a little incongruous there.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, the 2026 legislative session, I think a lot of people agree it's going to go down in the books more for what did not happen, as
Yes.
you mentioned, what died, than what maybe got accomplished. We have a long list. We could be here all day talking about what died or what didn't happen. But I guess overall, going into this session, we knew what one of the big battleground issues was going to be. School choice. House Speaker Jason White made it clear that was going to be the main issue for him and his leadership. That didn't happen. It was a fairly lengthy battle, but it really didn't even get a hearing in the Senate, and we saw that with a lot of things. We'll here shortly have our education reporter Dave Nabose on and go a little more in depth into that. But I just told you guys we've got I guess you'd call it a short list of things that died.
It's not that short.
But it's not that short. School choice, obviously. PERS. They were at one point going to put $1 billion into it and undo perhaps some of what they did last year that had drawn some criticism. For the most part, that didn't happen. They made some minor tweaks. They're not going to put $1 billion over a decade into it at this point.
they are not going to do a one-time $600 million, I believe, cash diversion into PERS from the legalization of sports betting, which also died. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
If you're noticing a theme running through here.
Well, Michael, one thing that you focused on a lot, and rightly so, prison health. I mean, you've done a lot of reporting about what appears to be a pretty terrible situation in our prisons. Lots of claims of prisoners not receiving timely or any health care, and there was a big push for reform of that, and it didn't make it that far. What happened?
Yeah. So that is a question that we will be, I think, aiming to untangle in depth in the weeks ahead probably, but sort of a quick recap. Leading into session, as you mentioned, we were publishing our Behind Bars, Beyond Care series, which documented pretty long list of examples of alleged denial of health care.
It's pretty horrible examples.
Pretty horrible conditions, people losing arms, who were incarcerated on one-year drug charges, alleged widespread hepatitis C. So leading into session, Representative Becky Curry, House Corrections Chairwoman, who we've had on the podcast before, she was very clear that she was going to introduce a wide range of reforms aimed at putting some safeguards in place, such as mandatory testing for hepatitis C and HIV programs, trying to shift power away from the Department of Corrections to award contracts. The current medical contractor, Kansas-based VitalCore, Health Strategies has been criticized and sued in federal court over the quality, or some would say lack thereof, of health care they've been providing in prisons. There was an effort to introduce a homicide task force to sort of look into the growing number of deaths in Mississippi prisons. Those efforts, almost all of which, I believe every single bill that Representative Curry introduced on the prison health care front, passed the House without a single no vote. The legislation headed to the Senate, where all of these same
there
bills...
was no vote.
There was no votes. There was not even
Right.
an opportunity for the vast majority of these bills to be considered on the Senate floor. The one exception being a bill introduced by Representative Justice Gibbs for the second year in a row to mandate that when prisoners are handling toxic cleaning chemicals, they be provided with protective gear. That ultimately passed both chambers and is headed to the governor for his signature. But sort of, when when the prison health care bills got to the Senate, it was very unfortunate timing. Chairman Juan Barnett unfortunately was out at that point and would remain out for the remainder of session with an illness. We hear he's doing a little better, and we wish him well. Vice Chairman of the Corrections Committee in the Senate, Lydia Chazanaw, a Republican from Winona, she took over in Juan Barnett's absence and was very clear that the wide range of reforms Curry introduced would not be getting a vote, would not be moving forward. And she said that she was honoring Chairman Barnett's wishes. We also know Governor Tate Reeves has taken a little bit of an interest, his office at least, in looking into what these prison health care reforms would do. So that's all to say. Most of them, met their demise in the Senate, all but one, as I mentioned, and there's opposition. But we did hear from Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann at an end-of-session press conference that he supported Representative Becky Curry's bills and that he perhaps hoped to usher them through his chamber next session. So it's a little bit of a confusing situation because everyone seems to support these bills, yet they met their demise. So That's where we are.
Okay. We have another, I guess you would say, a group of bills having to do with elections, voting, Taylor, and again, not so short list, but ballot initiative, which has been discussed since the Supreme Court took that away. State Supreme Court took that away in 2021. There have been some vows that it's going to be resurrected to allow people the right to put issues to a popular vote, but that didn't advance very far this session either, did it?
No, not at all. It passed the Senate Elections Committee, made it to the Senate floor, and there was not even a recorded vote on the Senate floor for what happened. Senator Joel Carter, a Republican from the coast. Remind me, is it Biloxi or Gulfport?
Gulfport, I believe. Yeah.
From Gulfport, made a motion to table the bill, and it passed on a voice vote pretty overwhelmingly. I don't recall hearing too many no votes from the floor, and the reason that he did it was he said that he believes it would be used as a vehicle for a lot of progressive causes, and out-of-state progressive groups will dump a lot of dark money into the state.
Which they're not doing now, right?
No, they've never, and I sort of made the point, and I to be fair to Senator Carter, I don't think that he was one of the senators who was opposing this initiative. I mean, he told me he was, I believe, in favor of it. But it's always been very ironic to me that I think a lot of the people who express concerns out of these evil, dark money interest groups are opposed to a mandatory online campaign finance reporting, which would allow the public to more easily view who these dark money interest groups are donating to in the state, and B, more rigorous campaign finance reform to crack down on some of this.
And once again, we saw this year, nothing is killed more dead or more quickly, it doesn't appear, than any kind of campaign finance or ethics reform.
It's one of the things that appears to attract some bipartisanship in the legislature, but bipartisan opposition.
Right.
That passed a Senate Elections Committee as well, but poor Senator Jeremy England, who's the chair of that committee, he had a tally sheet in his hand, and he was trying to sort of whip votes and see who would support it and who would oppose it, and he gathered that a majority would oppose it and didn't even bring it up for consideration on the floor.
Along those lines, a federal judge had essentially ordered the state to redistrict its redraw, its state Supreme Court districts.
Yes.
That did not happen.
No, and I know this is a little bit of a niche topic, and people may say, well, why the heck does this matter? Well, I mean, I would remind voters that our state Supreme Court has decided a lot of important things over the years, including the ballot initiative that we just mentioned. We have one of its decisions on appeal right now at the U.S. Supreme Court regarding a death row inmate. And so, there are a lot of close votes that happen on the U.S. Supreme Court, but that's not really the point of the litigation. The point of the federal litigation is that black voters in the central district of the state, a federal judge ruled, did not have a fair shot of electing a candidate of their choice. Throughout Mississippi's long history, there has never been a black Supreme Court justice that has won election to the Supreme Court without first receiving an appointment from a governor. In a vacancy. This was a ruling made by Judge Sharon Aycock, appointed by George W. Bush, a notoriously liberal president that we've had. Yes, and as with most redistricting cases, she gave the legislature the first opportunity during its regular session to redraw the districts. The point people, the negotiators, were House Judiciary B, Chairman Kevin Horan from Grenada, and Senate Judiciary A, Chairman Bryce Wiggins of Pascagoula, and they would keep advancing what we call dummy bills or placeholder bills that just bring sections of law forward but don't actually change the law, and just say, oh, we're negotiating, and then it got down to the final stretch of the session, and they never unveiled any type of substantive plan. So now this means likely the federal courts will end up just redrawing the map.
It looked like our legislature at this point is probably betting on that the Calais case before the U.S. Supreme Court is going to essentially nullify a lot of the Voting Rights Act and perhaps mean that they won't be forced to redistrict. So I guess they're going to ride that out.
We are part of the Fifth Circuit, which is a very conservative appellate circuit district. So who knows what they will do? But I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily a given that the Calais decision will just automatically invalidate Judge Aycock's decision, like I think a lot of people think that it will. But we will see. That is still in the works.
And yet another initiative dealing with voting or elections, early voting. There was an attempt again at that. We're one of few states without in-person early voting, and that is another thing that doesn't make it very far.
No.
What did make it far, which has already been signed by the governor, is legislation that would allow or actually force local elections officials to check a federal database to ensure that the applicants trying to register to vote are U.S. citizens. That's the SHIELD Act. We saw the legislature increase Mississippi's role in trying to enforce immigration laws. Critics would argue it's mostly a federal undertaking, but the governor has signed the SHIELD Act. The legislature also passed bills to kind of force local agencies to cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement, as well as to make illegal immigration a state crime as well, and pass some enhancements.
Opponents of this, it kind of mirrors a federal effort as far as voting in immigration, but opponents of this are we have several episodes you can
Yes.
look back to on the SHIELD Act and related issues, but it's opponents are saying this is stepping back in time. You're essentially, for some folks, going to create a poll tax. They've got to go get documents they may not have, got to travel. We have a lot of rural areas to be able to prove their citizenship when they vote. Anyway, that's going to be something to watch as we move forward.
Yeah, I would say as far as the big partisan debates, those were the lengthiest this session. Those often stretched hours on the House floor. So
And
I imagine
pretty much the entire session.
Yes, exactly.
Came up and were argued. Again, this list could go on for quite some time. We haven't been. We're going to cover probably in a follow-on episode a little bit about some healthcare issues, pharmacy benefit managers reform, something that's been a hot debate for at least a couple of years. That failed. It's hard to think about a whole lot that passed.
That is true. It is sort of the graveyard session this year.
Sure. And I guess that's chalked up to infighting between the House and Senate. This is not partisan. It's internecine Republican
Yes.
fighting, and we saw that kind of reach a large level of disagreement between the two leaders, House Speaker Jason White and Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. I'm starting to get the feeling they don't get along well.
You made I think a good point in your newsletter that published on Monday, that they might need to attend couples therapy. I think that's not a bad suggestion. I keep telling that they're both avid duck hunters. I keep trying to get them to host some kind of duck hunting retreat or summit for the two of them. Maybe that'll
maybe that's it. I don't know. Yeah, you're right. They're both very avid duck hunters, but beyond that, they don't appear to have much in common when it comes to legislative policy.
I know you said, and we'll be discussing education later. Our ed reporter will be on to go in depth on that. But I think Davna had a great quote from Education Senate Chairman Dennis DeBar in her sort of rundown of what happened to the education debate this session. What was the chasm between the chambers? What's sort of at the root of all of it? And Chairman DeBar said it's just sort of an unwillingness to give, sticking to the original stance and sort of hoping that the other chamber will fold. And as it turns out, neither chamber folded, so nothing passed across a wide range of issues. So.
And there's just not much. I don't know if you'd call it negotiation. There's before session or early session, they're not getting together on these policies.
Compromise is either a lost start or a dirty word in the Mississippi legislature.
There's not a lot of duck hunting. There's not a lot of golf. There's not much of anything taking place outside of kind of sparring on the Senate and House floors. So,
Well, two things, Jeff. I don't want to get ahead of you, but two things that they surprisingly did accomplish was they managed to adopt a budget, I guess, which is more you can say than last year.
Last year they couldn't even do that, so I guess there is that. They did adopt a budget.
They adopted a projects bill, a Christmas tree bill, so they can spread the largesse, the pork around the state.
And we could have a separate episode on that. But that brings me to something. We're talking about the session as if it's over and done with, but as they left, they were saying it probably is not over and done with. And procedurally, the way they ended the session, technically it's not ended. Barring them waving it off, Lieutenant Governor and Speaker, barring that, they're going to return on April 15th or any time before then. And I think what we heard is in the day when they were getting ready to leave, we heard that they expect Governor Reeves will veto a lot of stuff, and he's apparently already started. And we're hearing they're going to come back and try and override some vetoes. That could get interesting.
I'll believe that when I see it, but they like to talk a big game and prepare to override a veto, but I believe they've only ever overridden one of the governor's vetoes, and that was early on in 2020, I believe, over the education budget. He line item vetoed a few things out of there, and they did override him on that.
You mentioned the projects bill. Governor Reeves has line item vetoed projects bills before, and some of the things in this new projects bill are things he has essentially vetoed before.
Yes.
So I would guess most likely that's going to happen, and we'll see if they try to override it. Overriding it takes a lot of agreement, a 2/3 vote, both chambers. It's been hard to get these two chambers even 1/3 to agree on anything. So 2/3, that would be a big lift.
Speaker Jason White also did say in the closing days of the session that progress had been made on reviving a proposal to regulate and increase the transparency of pharmacy benefit managers, or PBMs. That has been an issue that has bedeviled both chambers for years, and he suggested that if an agreement is reached, perhaps they could return to pass a measure dealing with PBMs. But
that would likely require a special session, the governor
to suspend the rules. And not only that, the lieutenant governor in his end of session press conference pointed out that the debate has sort of resembled the Hatfields and the McCoys with PBMs. So it is really unclear as to whether progress is actually being made.
Speaking of things I'll believe when I see them.
Yes.
That there didn't seem to be a lot of compromise going on when that died. So again, the 2026 legislative session probably gonna be known more for what did not pass. And again, we may have to follow up on this list. We've probably not even gotten halfway through the list of some pretty major stuff that died. We will be talking about a teacher pay raise and several other things with your colleagues here momentarily. But anyway, onward and upward, I suppose.
Well, I suppose.
The bar's pretty low, so upward's really the only direction.
Well, and this is the penultimate session before the final one of this administration. And just think next session you'll have statewide re-election politics thrown into the mix.
Yes, and that reminds me of a quote from Senator Hob Bryan that he said many years ago, which is, "My gosh, I've never seen anything like this. I'm inclined to offer a resolution to ban the legislature from convening in election years." So
that's not that bad an idea, and Hank Zuber's idea of the legislature meeting maybe every other year. Sometimes that starts to look better and better. But,
Jeff, also, I have to mention, during the final week of session, Taylor and I found ourselves wandering around the first floor of the Capitol looking at portraits so as to avoid focusing on our deadlines one afternoon. We're breaking the news to you now, but I do recall, looking through the placards, there have been governors who have proposed to just get rid of the legislature entirely, and on the heels of the session, or rather after a very long session, that doesn't sound like an entirely bad idea. idea to me at the moment, but we'll see going forward.
All right. Well, guys, thanks for the rundown. Again, we'll probably have to continue this this post-mortem future episodes. But anyway, we're going to quickly break and have a couple of your colleagues on. And thanks for giving us the rundown.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're back. We made a quick reporter change here. I'm joined now by our education reporter, Devna Bose.
Hi, Jeff.
How are you?
I'm good.
And Catherine, Katie, I'm going to call you Katie at some point anyway, as we determine. Catherine Lynn, our business and development reporter. Hello.
Hi.
Have you guys recovered from the session? We determined earlier the rest of us haven't.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think I need more than a couple of days.
Michael said it was going to be a month for him. So
yeah, that sounds about right.
It was a busy time. You guys did a great job of coverage, explaining what was going on, or as we've been discussing, what was not going on. And Devna, you were at the tip of the spear this session on education issues. Dominated at least the early session, and were the subject of a lot of debate. One thing in particular, school choice. You probably dream about school choice at this point, do you not?
I know. Someone cornered me this weekend to ask me about school choice, and I was like, please, God,
Don't
no.
say those words. Sure. Yeah, it didn't pass, and it honestly didn't get much of a hearing in the Senate. Pretty much they rejected it outright. Did that surprise you? It did me. I expected there would be more discussion, and I expected there might be some common ground somewhere. But
that is what I didn't expect. I don't think the move to deliberate for less than 2 minutes was that surprising to me. I think the fact that they couldn't find a compromise, especially on portability, that was pretty shocking.
Yeah. Explain portability. Explain that. That's what everyone, a lot of people were figuring was going to result from this.
Right. So when we talk about school choice, it can mean a number of things, from charter schools to private school tuition being paid by these accounts. And so private school choice is typically it's like vouchers or ESAs, which are accounts.
What are ESAs?
Yeah, it's education savings accounts. Sorry, which hold money from the state. It's kind of it's the per student spending that the state spends to educate every student. Families can get that money to spend it however they like. And so we currently have a private ESA option for students with special needs. A thing that's kind of been gaining traction is a universal version of this that would be open to all students, kind of regardless of ability or their income. And so that was the hard push from the House. The Senate came in with a public school choice plan, which called portability or open enrollment. These policies
be able to switch districts.
Yeah, they just make it easier for students to transfer, because right now in Mississippi you need the approval from both the home district and the district that would receive the student. So the plan on the table would take away the veto power, I believe, from the home district. So I was surprised to find that there was no, the chambers could not agree on some plan there, because it was such a priority for both of them really going into this.
The chambers really didn't even discuss it. I mean,
right.
Between chambers or whatever. I think everyone would guess portability, some form of that would come out, but it did not. Another big education issue you dealt with, and it went on kind of right up till the end, was a teacher pay raise. For anyone living under a rock out there, tell us tell us kind of what happened with the teacher pay raise over this session.
Yeah, so right after kind of the school choice headlines, the House very intentionally did not include a teacher pay raise in their school choice bill. And so a couple weeks after their big school choice push, we saw a teacher pay raise plan from them. It was $5,000. So the first day,
But the Senate went first.
yeah,
though, right?
yeah, they went first
Right out of the gate.
It was the first day they came out with the $2,000 raise, with a promise to kind of see if they could add more to that once all of the money talks were.
And they were saying we think more like 5,000.
They were saying they were hoping they could get there, but then things kind of went bad. I'm sure it was tied to what happened with school choice. We saw things kind of shift around then, and both chambers let each other's pay raise bills die, and then they revived their own proposals. And at that time, the Senate came up to $6,000.
6,000
Yeah.
spread over years. So
Yeah.
anyway, they're seems like okay, they're up in the ante or whatever.
Sure.
But then what happened?
Yeah, so then they went to negotiations.
And they looked at the budget.
And they looked at the budget around the same time they were getting, they realized Medicaid had come in, millions over what they were expecting. Kind of reality began to dawn, and they came out with a $2,000 raise, which was the first thing on the table. Yeah.
Okay. That's unusual, and from what I understand, from what you've written, that's not really popular among teachers to promise at one point a $6,000 raise. And then drop back to $2,000.
To be fair, they weren't really all that pleased with the $6,000 raise,
right?
Because it was essentially a $2,000 raise
spread
out over 3 years, and I guess for teachers, it seemed that amount would be so quickly eaten up every year that at the end of those 3 years, it would honestly kind of come out to be even. So to be kind of disappointed by their highest offer and then go back to the lowest. I can't imagine how they feel, because they told me it's extremely it's disappointing.
Well, and we've seen teachers, the last real pay raise they got was 2022.
Right.
And
you covered that. It was about $5,000, right?
Right.
Okay.
But they pointed out that hit at a time when state insurance costs were going way up.
Right.
When inflation, we've seen what happened there. That had gotten us up. We were looking pretty good on the southeastern average, but now all the other states around us have surpassed us, and we're the lowest
in the southeast. Yeah, I believe
teacher pay.
Yeah, oh, for sure. We're the lowest on average in the country.
Country, right?
Certainly in the southeast.
Yeah.
Do you know about how much it is?
It's not trailing by just a little. I think there's a pretty significant pay gap there. It's like a couple $1,000, I think.
We're at
I think on average 41.
Okay.
I hope
or 43.
43,
anyway.
41.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
something down there in the low 40s. Yeah.
You and I have been looking at a lot of numbers the last couple of weeks as the budget rolled out. But anyway, they left vowing to come back and teacher pay be a big thing next year. Next year is a re-election year. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. One of the chamber's education chairmen said that he would promise to come back and look at it. The other, not so much. I talked to Chairman Robertson, who said, yes, to be honest, we look at it every year. We want to give teachers a raise every year, but there are other people that we need to pay higher as well. And so, we'll see what happens. It wouldn't surprise me that they would do it next year again. But yeah, we left it with him not being so sure we would look at it again.
And speaking of other employees or whatever, the large teacher pay raise did not come to pass, but it didn't get a lot of attention, but a large raise for judges passed, and theirs I think is on average $13,000, and they're already making some of them, most of them six figures.
I think this goes back to a point that the Democrats raised in their press conference, in the last week, which is that, the legislature finds money when they can.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of teachers have made that connection between the judicial pay raise and theirs. So anyway, we will see if they do revisit that. And we'll probably be back. We could go on and on about education issues in this session and then what's coming up next session, and we will certainly follow up some of that. But Catherine, sorry. Anyway, pretty busy session for you. A lot of, I guess you would call them business-related bills, and as always, workforce development. That was a huge issue.
Yeah, workforce development. There is a lot of career and technical education funding that is going both to high school and to higher ed. There is a new bill that passed both the House and the Senate. It's a little bit modified from its original form, but it's called Upskill. Our higher education reporter, Candace, has written about it. And they are doing a pilot program, and they will be using opioid settlement funds for a limited pilot program for this. And it's essentially kind of a last dollar effort to help pay for community college or workforce development.
This has been billed in the past, it's been proposed in the past as essentially free community college.
Yeah.
Sort of it works out that way. You have to apply for and get all you can in grants and scholarships, but beyond that, the state would make up the difference.
Yeah. But in its current form, it would be a very limited pilot.
Right.
Yeah.
I know it's been proposed as across the board, and other states have done it, and Mississippi has had a couple of at least one of its community colleges actually do that. So anyway, that's workforce development always, I guess, atop the list, trying to combat our workforce participation. We remain relatively low on that. What are some other issues you looked at this session?
I think energy was really the big economic development theme for this session. It kind of goes back to Governor Tate Reeves' Mississippi Power Play initiative that he announced last year, which is basically an all-in, let's look at all options and really invest in the energy sector and seeing it as the future for Mississippi's economic growth going forward. And I think a lot of that is also tied into things that we're seeing nationally, as well as the data center boom that's
I
kind
was
of
going to say data center, everything right now, right?
And I think it's interesting that like XAI has producing its own power up in DeSoto County, somewhat controversially, I might add. And then down in Louisiana, Entergy, which is the parent company of Entergy Mississippi, they recently announced with Meta, the parent company of Facebook, that they will be investing into, among other things, battery storage facilities. And this session, they passed an exemption for battery storage facilities that would fall under other renewables like wind and solar.
A tax exemption?
Or I think it's a
incentive.
50% reduction in sales tax, use tax. But it's just expanding the definition. They also expand the definition of the site development program, which has kind of been one of the ways they've been trying to attract companies. And they're like, hey, this site is all set up and ready. It's
ready to go.
And you just need to pop a building on it. So they expanded what is covered to include utilities and electric upgrades. And this comes when they're going to be investing $43 million into the site development this year, and $20 million is set aside specifically for utility and energy projects.
That's something I imagine our more rural areas are going to be really looking at, hoping they can get in on
Yeah, the interesting thing about the site development grants is that they do need to have matching funds.
That is the problem for some of the more rural Delta areas, correct?
Yes, it is. So if you have a building that needs $1 million in upgrades, and then that means the city or county has to be able to put up at least 500,000 of that to get the matching grant from MDA.
Yeah,
of
for some of
500.
these areas, I mean, that's difficult. Their tax base is such that coming up with 500,000 even is tough. It's going to require raising taxes in
Yeah.
a lot of cases. So
They also passed a bill to set up it's called the Mississippi Energy Investment Fund under MDA, but so far I have not seen any funds directly put into that. So we'll see what happens with that. And
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure how it's different than the site development money that they've already set aside.
Okay. Another issue I think you ended up dealing with that you probably weren't expecting, what's been called the alcohol crisis
Yes.
statewide. Tell us what that's about. But again, people who've
Yeah.
been under a rock. I'm sure a lot of people already know about this, but
So if you've gone into any smaller alcohol businesses, even actually I went to Costco, and they were out of a lot of things during the height of this, which was in February.
wow.
They basically all of the alcohol within Mississippi is distributed through the Alcoholic Beverage Control
Control,
Warehouse
the ABC, yeah,
that is that is overseen by the Department of Revenue, but is operated by a private company.
The
through a
actual
contract.
warehouse
Yes.
is run. Okay.
And so back in January, they shut down for a few days to do inventory, which is very typical, and implement a new software system. Unfortunately, the software system was not compatible with their conveyor belts. So they took out the conveyor belts and instituted a system of going with a forklift and just taking one pallet and popping it on the truck. And as you can imagine, with any change, it took some time to get used to the system and to figure out all the software kinks.
Yeah.
And so it resulted in a huge backlog at the warehouse. I believe at the height, it was around 200,000 cases. They are now at about 170,000 cases.
So we were seeing, still are seeing empty shelves
Yes.
at package stores,
Yeah,
bars not being able to get their orders.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Representative Hank Zuber told me that he went into one restaurant and tried to order vodka, and there was no. I don't know if he tried to order vodka. He just said that there was no vodka to be had.
Yeah, Hank used to run what they call the temperance committee. But anyway, yeah, and this problem is ongoing, and it's probably going to take a while to resolve, correct?
Yes. So the commissioner had said that if they were able to get through half the backlog by March, they would be able to kind of clear it up by May. But since it's now April, and they have seemingly not been able to do that, it potentially could take a little longer. However, I have heard from the package stores and owners that the warehouse has been more responsive. They've been turning out orders much faster. And even if they're getting small shipments, like somebody said they had one case come on a truck, at least they're getting
At least some improvement.
some improvement there.
Now, there was a bill they passed kind of on an emergency basis to try and address this, and it failed, correct?
Yes, it died in the committee, and according to Zuber, they did not hear a counter proposal from the Senate on how to do it.
What would this have done?
It would have allowed anyone with an alcohol permit to order from anywhere in the country or buy from anywhere in the state.
Okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to right now, you can only buy it from the state.
Yes.
This, speaking of Chairman Zuber and others, this raised an issue that's come up for many, many years of why doesn't the state get out of the alcohol business?
This is a good question. I've been seeing some comments online. I think also the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, Trey Lamar, also did bring this up in a couple of meetings about whether...
And has brought it up in the past, actually, I believe, previous years.
that it might be time for the state to get out of the alcohol business.
They make a lot of taxes
They
from
do.
it, though.
They
so-
do make a lot of money. I think it's maybe 1 to 2% of the general fund.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not an insignificant amount. In addition, they are building the new $50 million warehouse
Mm-hmm.
for ABC as well, and that's supposed to open in early next year.
Okay. Well, I know you'll keep us posted on that. As you and I were talking before this podcast, you've already written that some alcohol businesses are suing the state over this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think more of those are coming in, so that's going to be...
They're suing Ruan, which is
Or
the
the
private,
private
operator,
contractor.
for
Okay.
violating the contract with the Department of Revenue.
That's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. And with both of y'all, we could be here for a long time, doing a postmortem on this session. So I'm sure we'll be coming back and following up on some of these issues. And I'm assuming we're going to hear school choice debate again in the future.
Yeah, I imagine it'll come up some more. We'll see where it goes. It's hard. I mean, you know better than me. When an issue this big fails, it's hard to get the momentum up again next year. So we'll see.
Sometimes, yeah.
Dave,
yeah.
no, I have to say your coverage this session of education was excellent. As
thanks.
someone who doesn't know that much, I learned a lot from reading yours.
Thanks. That's really kind
Both
you
of
to
y'all did a great job. I thought our team did a great job. It was a busy session. Poor Michael, it's going to take him a month of
Poor
sitting by a
Michael.
pool drinking margaritas or something. I think
right.
he
I'd like
said.
to join Michael at the pool.
If he can get the liquor for it.
Roy, this is true. Yeah, he may not be able to find it. So, but anyway, thanks for giving us this rundown, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.